This is Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you drive long haul, short haul, or heavy haul, they're here to empower and inspire women in the trades on tncradio.live. So gear down, sit back, and enjoy.
Welcome to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. We're a show that works to inspire and empower women in trucking, in the trades, and everywhere. We tackle all kinds of topics and work to encourage women to be their very best with informative guests and women who've been champions. I'm Shelley, and
I'm Kathy.
No topic is not allowed on our rig. We tackle the tough topics along with other topics, and we like to feature experts and celebrities who can assist women in being the best they can be. Self-doubt and self-sabotage are two things many women struggle with. This gets in the way of goal setting and careers. Mimika Cooney is an expert on achieving career goals. She learned it all the hard way by spending many years bootstrapping and just getting by. She and her husband wanted something better for their family. Mimika pushed hard, expanding her photography business, and realized she had to ask the right questions to achieve her success and come up with ways to stop getting in her own way. Her faith in God pulled her through, and she began to share her revelations to help others succeed. Mimika is a mindset trainer. She helps people break their limiting beliefs, stop self-sabotage, and unlock their true potential. She's on the show with us today, and we're excited. Welcome, Mimika. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I just love the name of the podcast because the warrior is this warrior spirit in me just resonates with that so much.
Awesome. Yes, women truly are warriors. We take on so many different things and we can switch hit, but we get in our own way so many times, which we shouldn't. I was wondering if we could start a little bit with your background, how you got started and how you started helping other people.
Sure. Well, as you can tell, I'm not from around here. I'm originally from South Africa. I was born and raised there, actually during the apartheid eras. I'm a Gen X baby. And, back in the day when we grew up there, South Africa was about 10 years behind the rest of the world. So black and white TV and finding things that you had to make because you couldn't get import and export is kind of how I was raised, very much bootstrapping and making things along the way. So I was raised by an entrepreneurial father because I don't make a very good employee. Okay, I'm just the boss. And I knew from a young age it's something I always wanted to do. Sort of long story short, I met and married my childhood sweetheart. And we were very, focused on how do we make a better life for ourselves and our family. And we had gone through that experience of the shift in power in South Africa in 94 when Mandela came into power. And there was a lot of unrest, a lot of uncertainty and fear. Political instability, they were having, they closed the colleges down, schools. There was just, a lot of people didn't know what was happening. And the rest of the world was carrying on, but it was like we were just a hot mess. And we'd realized we had the opportunity to either stay and just have to deal with what's going on there, or we could give ourselves other opportunities. And what I believe in life is, we're given circumstances come our way, but we have the choice to either be victims or be a victor. And as you can tell, the warrior in me is not going to give up very easily. So my husband and I looked at the opportunity of creating new opportunities for us and our young family at the time. So we grabbed it with all we could, and we were able to get from South Africa to the UK. I have a mom who's half British, and we lived there for 6 years. And we arrived with basically 2 suitcases. We didn't have any prospects for work. We literally lived on credit cards for 6 months without getting paid. I was pregnant at the time. So when we arrived, literally my eldest was 2. We arrived in the middle of a snowstorm one December evening in 2000. And when we arrived, we were like, oh my gosh, what have we done? I was 4 months pregnant, and literally 6 weeks after arriving, my 2-year-old ended up in hospital with pneumonia.
No.
It was so stressful. So my husband didn't get paid for 6 months. So we were just living on fumes and on lots of favors. But we'd realized, even though this was tough and this whole adjustment was crazy, even though the English speak English, it's a whole different culture. We realized that, we could either back up where we started, or we could just push through. So of course we decided, we knew that the suffering and the going through what we were going through was going to be worth it at the end. And we just really persisted until we got that breakthrough, and just being consistent and showing up. And my husband had an internet business. So, getting up in the mornings and it's dark before 9 a.m. and, doing all the things, looking after the kids. I had a newborn at the time, doing the sales calls and doing everything just because you have to. And, us women are resilient, right? We just figure it out. We don't get a chance, especially when you've got kids and family relying on you, give up and cry. And I really believe that, it's good to understand in from a bigger perspective, like I'm doing this because it's going to get me there. Like, even though it feels hard right now, I have a big vision, a bigger picture, and I know where it's going to get me if I can just embrace the suck right now and get through the messy middle and know that it's going to be better on the other side. So long story short, after living there for 6 years, my husband's business grew and we had the opportunity to move to the USA. And we had to do all the things, jump through all the hoops, go through the process of getting visas and green cards. It took 7 years for us to keep proving to the American government that we were legitimate and able to stay. And we didn't have anybody advocating for us, so we had to do this ourselves because it was our own company. And so we moved over with 2 kids, started it fresh. On my 30th birthday, I arrived, touched base in the USA, and I was having heart palpitations. I was like, why is my chest so tight? And I just feel like nauseous and just felt totally sick in my stomach. Like, oh my gosh, what have we done? We've done this again. Here we go again. We must be suckers for punishment, putting ourselves through this process. But again, just holding on to that vision that this is going to get us where we want to be. So that was 2006. So we restarted our businesses. I actually at the time was a professional photographer, so I, started the business from scratch, getting new clients. And then after about 2-3 years, I really felt like, I'm a woman of faith, and I really, feel like God leads me in ways. And sometimes He asks me to do these things that seem a little counterintuitive. So when I really felt like I was meant to have another baby, at the time my kids were 9 and 11, I was like, "Oh, you crack rat! Like, seriously, what are you thinking? Why would you want to start again? Like, hello, aren't you a sucker for punishment?" Anyway, but I just knew that there was somebody up there that needed to come down to heaven and needed to walk out her destiny. So I relented because I've realized there's no point in fighting with God. He's going to get His way anyway. And it's been such a blessing, having my youngest, and it was just constantly just walking out with faith, like taking the step of, I can't see where I'm going, but I just have to believe that where I'm going is going to be better. And also the thing for me was really hard was just embracing and enjoying the ride. I know it's so cliche. Like, I know ladies listening are probably like, yeah, enjoy the ride. We know this is going to be long, right? But it does. We do. We have to. I always think of it as life as like we are driving in a car. We're on the highway. Sometimes we add a little bit too much gas and we think the faster we go, that we'll get there better. And when we get there, wherever there is better than where we are now. But the problem is, in my personal case, I pushed the accelerator pedal too hard. I didn't give myself a chance to really heal and to give myself some time to think and to, I just went from one stressful situation into another, and not prioritizing my self-care. And eventually the wheels fell off the bus, literally. In 2016, I got to a stage where I had one of my kids, who's a young teenager at the time, was going through a mental health crisis. I had a business launch that didn't do very well. And then 6 weeks later, my mother-in-law passed from cancer. And talk about the trifecta effect where, you can hold it together for as long as you can until the damn wall breaks. And It broke. And literally for a year, I took my foot off the gas. I was stuck on the side of the road. I literally needed to call some kind of AA rescue team because I was not going nowhere. It blew the head gasket. Everything was just completely gone. And it was really hard. And for me, I'm a very get up and go, and, I'm a very energetic. So for me to have a situation where I felt like I couldn't get out of bed, the grief was like, to have that physical grief where your body actually aches. I've never had that before. And I was like, this is so weird. And it was my body just going through shock and going through the process. And I'd realized there was no more pushing. There is no more. I mean, if you blow a head gasket, you are not moving. You are stuck, and you're going to stay there until you get some help. And so I took a year off. I closed my business. And really, it was like my wilderness season of like my come to Jesus moment. Like, what am I doing with my life? And is this really where I want to be? Like, I had been going so fast at such a high speed, I wasn't enjoying the scenery. I didn't see the exits or the slow down signs. I just ignored them. I just kept going through until eventually I got to a stage where I was forced to stop. But in retrospect, I'm so glad I did, because I knew that I needed that time to really reassess things. And, at the time I was like, the hardest time for me was my 40th birthday. My 40th was probably one of my most miserable birthdays I've ever had, because it was the year that this all happened, where I lost my mother-in-law. It was literally 4 months after that happened, and trying to deal with a situation that I could no longer control in the likes of my teenage son, where you're doing everything you can do because, women are fixers. If there's a problem, we're going to fix it. Well, in my case, I'm really going to always try to figure it out. Like, I always believe there's something is figure outable. But it got to a stage where there was nothing I could do to fix this. It was out of my control. And for me, the hardest thing was letting go and letting God take over and say, listen, you clearly have made a mess, but it's okay. I've got you. I need you to take time to rest. Because for us high-achieving women out there who are always on the go, rest is a very foreign concept. To me, it's hard. Like stopping to think. Even in society in general, we've got apps and we've got social media and we've got videos, and there's always something that's there to consume our attention, that we've become so uncomfortable with the silence, with the slow, with the processing, right? And it's very difficult to kind of get yourself to that stage. But I've realized that there's a lot of joy in the pause. And instead of fighting, like, get me out of here, I've realized that maybe there's some lessons I need to learn, or maybe there's some work that needs to be done, that if I keep going on this path, then I never want to stop and smell the roses. I might miss the whole point of the ride, Yeah. Get there and go, what am I doing here? Hang on, this isn't where I wanted to be. And you realize that sometimes those pauses are important. Just like, you got to go fill up with gas. You've got to go refresh. Sometimes you're going to take a nap. Sometimes it's simple. Self-care. Like, hello. Any women out there willing to raise their hands and say, yeah, I prioritize self-care. Yeah, it's hard. It's all the really things. But it's important. And so that whole story is where it brings me today, is like having done all the things and trying all the things and realized there are some principalities and principles in life that you just really cannot fight. You just have to know that your mind and taking care of yourself, because I always say, men might be the head of the home, but the woman is the heart. That if the woman's heart is broken, everybody suffers. Everybody, the kids, the dog, everything, the atmosphere, and everyone's cranky and nothing goes to plan. So I always say the most important work us women can do is the work that we do on ourselves, is getting ourselves aligned. And it's, I really truly believe that when we are aligned with our purpose, which is listening to what our spirit is saying, not just from a mindset perspective, but because, we have mental health and we have physical health, but we neglect our spiritual health too, because that's our heart crying out for help. That's saying, this doesn't feel right, like this gut instinct, like I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't go down this path. But we're so used to just dumbing it down or muting it or putting on the radio because we want to la 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 la. We don't want to hear what we want to hear. I think that's the best thing we can do for ourselves, is put our own oxygen mask on so we can breathe and help those around us. So that's where it brings me today. After all of that, I'd realized I wanted to help women avoid going through what I went through, or at least heal from that. So I went back to school and I got reschooled and recertified as a coach. And I specialize now in mindset, because I believe so much in the power of mastering our mind and managing our mind and emotions and being who God made us to be in all facets of our life. So I'm really excited and, honored to be able to partner with women and help them navigate this journey to help them get on the other side thriving.
Wow.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
Well, when you think about it, mindset really is so very important. And we tend to get, as women, in our own way. We're our own worst enemy. Everything you've described, I've gone through in a different way. But oh my goodness, I think that there are a lot of women that can really relate to this. But how do we get out of our own way? How do we change our mindset?
Definitely. Well, the good news is first of all, to understand that you can change your mindset and you can change your life by changing your mind. And you don't have to live with the brain that you have. You can, through the science of neuroplasticity, retrain your brain. Like a lot of us just work in habits, especially if you're adult past 30 years and over, you for sure are living mostly out of habits and ways that or patterns that you've developed over the years. And you can, through this retraining, but intentional thought processes and just being aware. Like I always say, the number one thing is awareness. Like for me, I didn't want to admit that I was like, Houston, we have a problem. I didn't want to admit that there was a problem. I didn't want to look at the issues. I wanted to just brush them under the carpet and pretend that it'll be fine tomorrow. But they will eventually, just like weeds, find their way, to really choke out the life in you if you do not weed them out when they start.
Yeah.
And for me, mindset first is just, first of all, coming to the realization that my mind and my brain is the most important organ in my body. That if my thoughts and my drive my actions and in my emotions don't necessarily have to be always, I don't have to live by emotions, because our emotions are energy in motion that go through our bodies. They are there to help us understand and take, stock of what our decisions are in our life. But so many of us are ruled by emotions. It's kind of like the picture I like to describe to my clients is we have two parts, two personalities in our brain. We have the mom who's in control and who makes the decisions, and we have the baby. And the baby or the toddler likes to have a hissy fit now and again. She doesn't like her passy taken away. She doesn't like the bowl of Ben and Jerry's taken away for her when she's having a meltdown. She sometimes will have a screaming match and want things her way. But as the adult in the relationship, we have to say, okay, honey, I know you're having a meltdown. This doesn't feel great. You feel embarrassed because of whatever so-and-so did or whatever happened, or this doesn't feel good, but it's okay. This feeling will pass. You have control to make the decision. Now, you either sit in the corner and cry or you pull yourself together. But I have a saying sometimes, and my clients think, at first they're like, what? And I'll explain the concept a little deeper. But I say sometimes you've got to bitch slap that baby brain because she will misbehave. She will tell you, I want to have it my way. And sometimes you've got to put your foot down and say, no, I understand that you're feeling this way, and acknowledging and being aware of your thoughts and feelings, but I do not have to be ruled by it. And that takes practice. Yeah. And as I said, it starts with awareness of just allowing every little thought to come through your mind and believing it's true. Let's take example, anxiety. I mean, I can rant about this. I tell you, get me started. Everybody wants to own their anxiety like it's a badge. Oh, my anxiety is this, so I can't do this. Oh, my anxiety. Who on earth are we to give anxiety the microphone in our life? And anyway, in the mental health field, this kind of labeling was never intended to be in the public. It was just for mental health practitioners to sort of categorize how to treat their clients or their patients. The fact that people are owning depression and owning anxiety and owning their diagnoses as if it's their identity is very dangerous, because what happens then is if you think that you are your anxiety, you don't think you can change.
Yeah.
And that is a dangerous place to be, because you never want to seek change. You never think you can change, and you never do. But here's the truth, is you are not a product of your experiences or your circumstances. You don't have to allow your past. And believe me, I've worked with people who've had very traumatic experiences, gone through abuse, and they can rewire their brains and change their lives just by being intentional about what they want out of life and
Mhm.
taking the steps to make those conscious decisions, which is like habit reformation. Like if you have a habit of doing something, first of all, you need to notice it's a habit, but there are ways to retrain you. So that's part of what I do with my clients is I take them through a training process of awareness, experience, applying new habits, and then practice, and then doing that over and over. Because if you got, it took a hot minute to get you into this mess. I can guarantee it'll take you a few, a few weeks, or at least, which I say, at least 90 days to get you unstuck and to
Yeah.
get you moving forward. But the good news is it's possible.
I would think it would be challenging to change your mindset. Kathy, what are your thoughts on
I
that?
was just gonna say, I am the queen of learning how to change my mindset, and you know what? I consistently still do it. I my personal story has been one of extreme abuse my entire life, and growing up with being told that you're not good enough, that you're useless, that you'll never amount to nothing, you're stupid, you're, all this stuff, you're a waste of skin, you pollute the air and all this stuff. It really debilitates as you go along in life, because you have this constant negative factor in the back of your mind affecting everything that you're trying to do. Doesn't matter how big or how small. It could be the smallest little task, and you still feel that you're not good enough to even try. So in my case, I didn't really realize that was going on until, I ended up losing everything and being an alcoholic and having to go through a women's treatment center. And it took me a period of 2 years of in this treatment place, 3 separate tries over the period of 2 years. And I had to literally unlearn everything that had been taught to me since a child. And then I had to relearn who Kathy was, which isn't that easy, because I was so brainwashed by all this, these lies that I didn't know. I was 40 years old and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked, what I didn't like, or anything. And the hardest part was learning to tell myself, to change the story I was telling myself, and learn and accept how freaking awesome I am, and how much of a powerhouse and how much good I can give back to the world. But in saying that, changing my mindset, changing my thought patterns is still to this day, 10 years later, a daily thing, because it'll sneak back in on days that I'm tired, that I'm not feeling well. Well, I'll automatically think, well, why are you even trying to? Why did you move to LA in the first place? Do you actually think you're going to be able to get your book turned into a movie and all these things? But I have to stop myself and reroute my thoughts and retrain my brain to empower myself back on track.
Well, I'm so enjoying your story. I'm like so excited. You're like the poster child. Like seriously, it's so amazing. And we need more people like you to actually share this whole concept that it can be done, right? And this is where I think this is so great that you're able to share your story that way. And
I agree, Kathy. Sharing this with everybody is really helping so many people. And what's amazing, it has to be a daily discipline. That takes a lot of work and commitment.
Learning to reroute my thoughts literally is a daily habit, as I guess we could say, because there's a lot of days where I struggle. Like I moved here to LA to get my book turned into a movie, but then that little voice will pop up if I'm tired, if I'm not well rested. It'll be like, who do you think you are? Do you actually think you of all people can, get your book turned into a movie? You don't know anybody. And all this thing would tend to pop in.
Yeah, it's that negative self-talk that so often creeps into our heads. And you've got a great book, so there's no reason why it couldn't be a screenplay.
what's the name of your book?
Dream big. Dream big. It's got the picture of the truck that I drive on the cover.
Is it more of a memoir, or how have you written it?
It's definitely it's my life, and like I should be dead 10 times over. It grew up in extreme violence, and tons of sexual assaults, and I was gang raped and
Wow.
suicide attempts, and just, oh my gosh, all sorts of stuff. And I ended up becoming a nurse and then pretending that nothing ever happened. Just, you know what? I got a great career. Whatever happened in the past stays in the past. Let's not worry about it. But that eventually catches up with you. And I say this everywhere. I mean, internal wounds. So I've had to retrain my brain. Changing the story that I tell myself happens on basically on a daily basis, because oftentimes there's a little voice that comes into the back of my head telling me that I'm not good enough to do the things that I want to do, like creating my book into a movie. So bottom line is that your mind will always believe everything you tell it, whether it's good or bad. And I learned to retrain my brain into feeding my mind with faith. I feed it with truth. I feed it with love, rather than the easier version of feeding it with negative thoughts. It's too easy to say that I'm not good enough, that I can't accomplish the goals, or who do I think I am? And I spent years, I'm going to say decades, thinking those kinds of thoughts. So when I learned to re-channel my thought process, it has to be something that's going to empower myself and change the story that I'm telling myself on a daily basis in order for me to succeed. And in saying that, it's the same equivalent of changing the habits that you create for yourself. So for me, I wanted to change my life so bad that it required me to rechannel everything that I thought I was doing into creating something new. And in order to do that, you have to change, and change requires the basics, the things, the way that you think, the things that come out of your mouth, how you talk about yourself, how you view yourself. And I decided to do that with love and nourishment and healing. And
Wow, I'm so impressed. You're like a poster child for
She's
this
amazing,
whole thing,
isn't
for
she?
mindset. I mean, like, you are like, can I
Yeah.
hire you as a salesperson? Because you could totally sell my training program. And that's what I love about it, is that this is true, ladies. It can be done, no matter what your background is. And this is why I'm so like on my soapbox about this, is that, again, like you mentioned some key factors there, like your habits, changing your words, how you speak to yourself. And how, believing the lies, that was a big thing you mentioned as well. Like, no matter all the negativity you were told, you don't have to believe that junk. Like I say, get rid of the junk from your trunk, kick it out. It's holding you back. Like, if you feel like you're patchworking your car and you're just chugging along in a 1972, like Chevy, now it's time to upgrade, honey. We need to get you into a Ferrari that's cleaned out and, streamlined with all the modern technology, and modern ways of doing that is retraining, and going through and retraining the habits. And that's what it's important to know, is that it can be done. But you also mentioned something which I think is key, and I'd love to know what that trigger was for you. But that part where you said you were so desperate to change, that's when change happens. And that's, I think, was key. What exactly was the trigger for you?
Oh, mine was Toothless Joe. I ended up losing my nursing career. I was an alcoholic. I had tried to commit suicide. I was 42. I lost everything I owned. I ended up on the streets with nothing. Literally, I had been robbed. I had no identification. Like, I had the clothes on my back. And on the 7th day of walking around in a zombie-like state, a man named Toothless Joe slapped me on the back, and he goes, "This is the life, live it, love it." And when he did that, I call it a God smack, because when he slapped me on the back, it's as if decades of depression just shattered, and I saw crystal clear for the very first time in a long time. And I'm looking around at my dismal surroundings, and I said, "What did you just say?" I said,
Wow.
"This is not my life." Because I've always known there's a greater purpose to me, that there's something inside, this fire, and I have something so great to give back to the world. And standing drunk and homeless beside Toothless Joe was not it. And I knew that.
Talk
Yeah.
about your
Right.
come to Jesus moment, like,
Right.
pull
And
yourself
I'm
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually stomped my foot, and I said, "This is not my life." And I just made a decision, and I was going to do whatever it took to get away from that guy. And I turned around and I went to the hospital, and I detoxed for 2 weeks. And I went back to that. It was a faith-based program, a Christian program through the Hope Mission called Wellsprings. It was a program for women where you live there for a year to literally unlearn all the stuff, relearn who you are, and then accept, how beautiful and what a child of God that you are, and a spark of light, and how to give back. So I went back there. That was the third time. And I said, I am not leaving until I figure this out, till I break down all these layers of trauma and figure out, and find that light and let that light shine. And I did that. And I've been sober for 10 years. And now I operate the largest equipment in the world. I travel the world. I work with women worldwide. I go to women's shelters, prisons, juvenile homes, schools, everywhere. And I do it for free, because if you can help one person change, then that's how community changes, because that person will enable their children, their nieces, their nephews, and just that ripple effect, right? And it just goes. So yeah,
that's awesome. Well, and that's women. We love living in a village, right? We love a tribe, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is, if you one falls down, the other one, and someone else can be there to pick you up. Like growing up in South Africa, I'm very used to the African tribal mentality, where they had this concept where like the aunties and the uncles and everybody raises the child. If the child misbehaves, everyone's entitled to give it a honey smacks. But the same thing is, it's like we've kind of lost that with modern technology and modern living. We're so isolated. But this is what the good news is that it can be done. And the big thing, and I applaud you on that, Kathy, is that the fact is you decided, I will do whatever it takes to change, because you realized you had literally scraped the bottom of the barrel. There was no further. You couldn't go any further.
I was in the root cellar.
I mean, it's like not everybody has to get as far down as that. But what I'm saying is, the encouragement is if you can come from that far down, and it is possible. And I love how you mentioned your faith as well. And I'm a big believer in like what I do as well. And that's the difference in the way that I train people, is it's not just about your mind and think positive thoughts. Like, no, that's good, but it's not the whole picture. Mm-hmm. And I really think at the essence is that we all are born for a reason, and we have a greater purpose. That often we get these circumstances that we go through and experiences that try to knock us down, but we don't have to stay down.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is building a positive image of trucking by telling the story of the hardworking drivers and industry professionals who support the industry. And you can be a part of it. Learn more about TMAF and how you can join and be a part of the industry movement working to build a strong image of trucking by visiting TMAF's website at truckingmovesamerica.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our latest channel, TikTok.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
This is so encouraging to our listeners. When life strikes a huge blow, we can fight back. We don't have to stay down. It doesn't have to keep us there.
We can decide to get back up and say, I'm going to keep swinging. And there are tools, like your book is a great inspiration. Like I have a training program called Unstick Your Mind, which is a 12-step process. I've developed my own signature process going through neuroscience, and we cover things like habits, how you speak to yourself, words, your thought processes through a training and repetition and doing it again and again. And I come from a sports psychology background, because I'm actually a adult figure skater, and I only started skating at the age of 31. I was a ballet dancer my whole life, and I decided I wanted to try this, and I really loved the idea of skating. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And my kids were like, oh, Mom, you in a leotard? Ew. And I was like, I don't care. I am going to do this. And, I've been determined just to do the thing. And sometimes it's hard and it sucks. And my trainer's like, see you on Tuesday. And I'm like, okay. She says, I don't care. You pay me in advance. I'm getting paid no matter what. Are you going to sit there and complain, or are we going to actually just do this thing? And I fall down a lot. And I've got hurt before, but I'm determined that it doesn't matter, because it's making me stronger. And every try, and every time I'm doing this, like every time I take a thought captive that tells me I'm not good enough, or who are you to think you can do this? Those are lies. And this is why, as a woman of faith, it's so important for us to align with, our God-given purpose of who God says we are. We are loved, and we are chosen, and we are His children. And I sure as heck would not speak to my kids the way that I sometimes get spoken to in my head. So I just kick him out and decide I get to take over the space. I get to choose, because that's one thing God will not interfere with is our free will. He couldn't even do that for Adam and Eve. Like, He literally said, you guys get to choose. And of course, they didn't make a great choice. But for everyone listening, that is the great news. You have the choice. It's just you need to decide what you want to do.
So is part of this let go and let God and get out of the driver's seat and
Yes.
have that trust? Okay.
Definitely. I mean, I always say, like, I remember this distinctly when I was doing this thing and God gave me a picture. Like, I have these like prophetic visions of things. He talks to me like movies, right? And I'd be like, He says, you know what it's like dealing with you right now? It's like, you have told me, you have given me permission to be in the driver's seat of your life, but you are the worst backseat driver I have ever come across. You are giving me attitude. You are like, the GPS says we should go here. Maybe we should take this detour. And He's like, no, I know where we're going. I'm like, are you sure? Oh, hang on. Maybe we should stop here. Oh, look what Susie's doing over there. Maybe we should go get a car like hers. And He's like, will you be quiet? Be quiet and enjoy the ride. Stick your head out the window. Like, fill in the breeze. Why are you making this so difficult? So I realized I had to take my sticky fingers off the driver's seat and off the steering wheel. And
stop saying, are we there yet?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, as I said, I was always on the fast forward. Like, as you can tell, I talk very fast because I was thinking at 100 miles an hour, but I'd realized that I was missing out. I was going so fast trying to get through the next thing, that even when I got there, I wasn't happy and satisfied. So I'd realized I better just sit in the back seat and enjoy the ride and just be happy for where I'm at for that moment, because tomorrow brings its own challenges. Just like the Bible says, just eat, drink, and be merry, and show love and walk in kindness and help others. And we all have that in us, and we all have those gifts, and we all have unique gifts that we are called to bring. And it's up to us to decide how we use them. But we have a choice today to either be a victim or a victor. And it really is that simple. You get to choose.
I love your message.
Thank
Do you
you.
work with people remotely?
Yes, that's mostly how I work. Is I have an online coaching program. It's a 12-step program in a group format, specifically for Christian women, because I also go into detail about the female brain, because we are wired differently, and our hormones play a big deal in how we think as well. But I do one-on-one coaching as well, and most of my clients are based all over the world. I've worked with people in South Africa, England, California, Hawaii, all across the States. So always happy to have conversations with women who are ready to step into their next season of growth.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Kathy DeCaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com. Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry, our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com. Great leaders challenge their people not to stop at the first right answer. Tighten the Lug Nuts is the book that will help you move past that first right answer to be more effective, more productive, and more successful. This book serves as a blueprint that can be easily applied by leaders, entrepreneurs, truckers, owner-operators, all of us in our everyday lives. This is one of the best leadership books you can read to help you accelerate towards your personal and professional goals. Plus, a portion of the proceeds will be donated to Truckers Christmas Group. Visit TightenTheLugNuts.com to order your copy today.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
Mimika, what you're doing with your messaging is just tremendous. And I think this is something that's so needed right now, because I think the world kind of just went into pause mode and it got really chaotic the past couple of years. And that's really made people kind of wander around not knowing where to head. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this narrative we've all been living under is ridiculous. And it's just been this fear-based push of information, because normally, I mean, let's be honest, like most of the time, every day someone is dying, and it's a horrible thing to say, but it happens all the time. But what's happened in the last 2 years is that the media especially has pushed this narrative and this fear-based message that's got us all so focused on the negativity. And that's what really fuels a lot of anxiety and all that, is when we're looking at the negative things. And it's not to say we're not affected by it. I mean, I personally have gone through COVID twice. The first time I almost ended up in hospital because I had pneumonia. And I know how awful that is. And I've known people, we've lost people that we know personally from that. And it's not to say to put that down in any way. But what I'm saying is that we don't have to constantly be motivated or feel like we're being manipulated into believing this lie of this narrative that you have to live in fear, because that's not true. You get to choose what you see, what you listen to, and what your inputs are. And it's so important that we go on what I call a negativity fast. We need to fast from the negative news. We need to decide, it's like just like a diet. Like if you're going to eat junk food and sugar all the time, you're not going to feel good. You're going to feel terrible. So we have to, just like we're so focused on our diets, we need to go on a negativity diet where we can say, I'm only going to consume the positive things. Ignorance is bliss. If you can stay in that zone of, I'm only going to give myself and my body and my brain and my spirit and my soul the input and the positivity, that's how I'm going to grow and get out of that. And it can be done. So I just always say, just like Kathy has said with her story, she was surrounded by love and she gave herself kindness and she gave herself time to work through the process. But the good news is it can be done if you're willing and able to make the decision to, first of all, be aware that there's a problem and then take action to make a change. So that would be my encouragement for the listeners today.
This is wonderful. Where do people find you?
Well, the best place to connect with me is on my website, which is mimikacooney.com. And I will spell that for our audio listeners. It's MIM for mother, IKACOONEY.com. And I have some great resources. I often offer trainings like, you can join one of my upcoming workshops. I also have a free download, 8 tips to supercharge your mindset. If you go to mimikacooney.com, and I also have my own podcast. It's actually a video-based podcast. You can see me on YouTube, and you can find me everywhere on social, but I do like to hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you just look for my name, Mimika Cooney, you'll find me there, and I'm always putting out inspirational content. But I would definitely say, if you want to connect, come find me at my website, mimikacooney.com.
This has been a wonderful inspiration. I love your message, and I think you're going to help a lot of people. I'm so glad you've been on the show with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It's been absolutely delightful, inspiring, and you gave me the boost I needed today. Thank you.
Yep,
you're welcome.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, email us at info@tncradio.live.
Thank you for listening to another great interview on tncradio.live. And don't forget, be sure to subscribe to our podcast of Women Road Warriors. It's free. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.